And now, Valley View Casino's Sports Wrap on NBC San Diego.
Well, there, of course, is one more football game to be played in the NFL. Next week's Super Bowl between the Giants and Patriots here on NBC. But no matter what happens in that game, the story of this NFL season will be Tim Tebow. The sports world hasn't seen a figure this polarizing since, well, maybe never. And he knows he throws the ball in strange ways, but he's had quite an impact. Openly talking about his Christian faith has earned Tebow a legion of fans and some haters. But why is that? Derek Togerson takes a look.
I'll say this right up front. This story is not to preach to you. It's neither a defense nor an indictment. It's simply an attempt to understand the Tim Tebow phenomenon from the perspective of professional athletes who share his conviction and are not shy about sharing it either.
Me as a person, if I have opportunity to give honor to God, then I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? And that's just who I am.
I think it's just a personal conviction, you know. Everyone has their, you know, what they believe in. I think that the great thing about Tim Tebow is his platform and that he's really gotten it out there. But there's a lot of athletes maybe who don't get as much publicity as him, but who have been doing the same thing for a really long time.
He's not the first person to be a believer in Christ. Just the platform that he had, it was unusual.
That's the key. Tim Tebow may be the most widely known Christian athlete, but he's certainly not a trendsetter. Miles McPherson is pastor at the Rock Church in Point Loma and a former NFL defensive back.
I can't count the amount of athletes, amateur, pro, that have given their life to Christ. I couldn't count them, and there are Christians all throughout football, baseball, basketball, all throughout every profession in this world. There are a lot of them are undercover. And so when a guy like Tim Tebow comes out, you think, oh, it's a rare thing, but they're everywhere. It's just they're not saying anything. So I've seen countless, I can't count how many people giving their life to Christ, and they're walking with Christ, doing great things. It's just not worthy news.
Thing is, they are. At Point Loma Nazarene University's Superfest, a huge group of speakers, including former heavyweight boxing champion Chris Bird, Olympic gold medalist Allyson Felix, and all-star first baseman Adrian Gonzalez gave their testimony.
Getting married to my wife, that allowed me to give my life to Christ. And from that moment on, I started letting go of trying to live up to other people's expectations and try to do all these things that people said, oh, I have to do, or I have to be this kind of player, or I have to do that. And just say, Lord, I'm just going to do what you want me to do.
It's one of those opportunities to where you just connect and show that you're vulnerable to the kids and show that you're not this solid, perfect guy and the way in which they may portray you, but at the same time, you're just as vulnerable as anybody else. That you go through things. Life is not as easy as it seems on the outside looking in. You had to work to get where you are. It didn't come so easy.
I try to just draw attention to the Lord, you know. I try to run. I feel like it's a gift and a blessing, and if it can bring some more attention to God, then that's what it's all about.
So if all these successful athletes are open about their faith and witnessing when given the opportunity, why has Tebow been made such a big deal? The consensus seems to be people believe that he believes that God is somehow blessing him more than anyone else on the football field. And that's simply not true.
People were waiting for him to make a mistake, waiting for a reason to say, oh, where's your God now? But God is forever and ever and ever in us and around us. God is not just the person who just ordains everybody to win just because you're a believer. I mean, there's people in other teams that he's playing that are believers too. I mean, but it's more about the walk. It's more about the relationship and not just about the religion aspect of Christ.
What's happening with Tim Tebow is a great thing for the sport, and not only for Christianity, but for people who just want to live right. I mean, here's a guy who's clean, and you know, we always promote the guy who's out there getting arrested, the guy who's out there got all the women in the reality show, and here's a guy who's clean. He's got none of that. He's saying, I'm doing it for God. He's not boasting for himself, he's boasting about Jesus. And so in the least, people are going to realize I can be a good guy, I can live a straight life, and it's an admirable thing because it should be.
While it remains to be seen if Tim Tebow will fail as a football player, it's a good bet he'll be a success as a human being. And isn't that a whole lot more important? Derek Togerson for Valley View Casino Sports Wrap.
Well put.